Okay.
It doesn't cost money.
HD shows way too.
We'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everybody here this evening. We have 3 directors on site, city administration. We have 4 directors remote. We have 2 citizens in chambers and 35,000 plus at home watching. So thank you all. And stay safe.
There's no sports.
There's no sports, and the movie channels keep rolling them out, though. So we'll begin with an invocation written by Pastor Wilbert Bates, delivered by our very own city clerk, Harmony Morrissey. Please rise.
Thank you. Father, in the name of Jesus, I ask you to bless all of our city directors and city leadership. May your blessing be on all of their families. May your blessing be upon every decision they are called to make. Make every law that they sign have your blessing on it. And may your blessing be on our city and on those who are here today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
We'll call this meeting to order, and would ask City Clerk Morrissey to call the roll, please.
Thank you. Director Aaron Holliday.
Here.
Director Elaine Jones.
Here.
Director Becca Clark.
Here.
Director Carol Weatherford.
Here.
Director Karen Garcia.
Here.
Director Randy Foley.
Here.
And Mayor Pat McCabe.
Here. Thank you. At this time, we'll consider the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or items to be moved from consent agenda to new business?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Yes, Director Garcia.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I move to remove the first item in the consent agenda from the agenda.
That would be on the consent agenda. That'd be Resolution R2044 dealing with landscaping for mowing ground.
Yes, sir.
Can we have a motion to remove item 1 from the consent agenda? Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a second from Elaine Jones. Any discussion? All in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, so now we're back to approving the agenda as amended. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Director Clark,
Second.
seconded by
Second.
Director Foley. Thank you. All in favor of approving the agenda as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. At this time, we'll consider approval of the minutes of the regularly scheduled meeting of April 7th, 2020. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes as presented?
Mayor, there is one. Item 9 under the consent agenda is indicated in the minutes that it was considered by the board and approved. However, that item was removed from the board's agenda by motion of Director Holliday. So City Clerk has a correct version for your signature tonight, but for purposes of what was published to the board, item 9 under consent agenda did not appear. So with that change, if the board would approve the minutes, then you can sign what we have here tonight for you.
Right, so we need to
I move
the minutes as
approval of
amended.
the minutes as amended, or as corrected, I should say. I beg your pardon.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended with the striking of item 9 and seconded by Director Garcia. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Recognition of guests. Our first and only guest this evening, though he brought Cole McCaskill with him, but is Gary Troutman, President and CEO of the Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce and Metro Partnership. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Board. I'd like to give our quarterly report tonight, if I may. And in preparing this report for you tonight, it became apparent. I've certainly been dealing with the coronavirus for the last several weeks, but there was actually life before it in the earlier in this quarter. So I'll do the first part before, and we'll second part after, if we may. We were actually. I know you're aware, but we were on a really good roll in Hot Springs before all this hit. February was one of our busiest months ever, if not busiest, with projects. We actually had 7 different face-to-face meetings and 5 phone calls on projects, and had incredible momentum before all this transpired. We do support, as you know, we support our local communities, Malvern, Hot Springs Village, and Arkadelphia. We attended their equivalent of their partnership and chamber banquets in the first quarter. We hosted our own, and appreciate those of you that came, our Community Service Awards. That was a big success with roughly 650 folks at Horner Hall, and congratulations to all those winners. I think you'll be interested to know, certainly a lot's transpired with RDOT in the past several months. Sadly, we lost the chairman of the commission, Tom Chick, who has been a tremendous friend to Hot Springs and Garland County over the years. So we mourn his passing, but we were thankful. We have got Don Beavers has been a great representative of our transportation committee for many years. Chris Polycron has assumed that role, and he has a wonderful relationship that many years in the making with RDOT. So we figure we won't lose anything there, and certainly our highway projects have been indicative of the relationship Hot Springs has had with RDOT. So we're grateful for that. We had our second 11th grade career exploration fair. We intend to have that every year, but we had a little over 1,000 11th graders. We had 29 booths this year, up from 24 last year, and we hope to only grow that each year. Of course, the students will be constant because that will only be the amount of 11th graders there are in the community. Cole and Michelle and I took a trip up to West Memphis. I think most of you know of Gary Jackson. He's a Hot Springs High grad. Was principal at Cutter Morning Star, brother-in-law of Stuart Flashner, but he's principal of West Memphis High, their academy there, and just really impressive showing that they had. FedEx has a jet on the community college campus, just literally a half a mile down the street from West Memphis High. Have a wonderful program that Gary made. I know the mayor and Bill they're on our board, and heard Gary present to us, I believe, back in November. But 65% of the kids 70%, I'm sorry, of the students in West Memphis do not go on to traditional 4-year college. So rather than just try to sidestep that issue, Gary chose to tackle it head on. He's got a wonderful partnership with ASU Mid-South, again, right down the street, and they literally bus kids at 8, 10, 12, and 2 down the street to take vocational classes and prepare them for life after high school. So it was really a neat model to see, and ASU has injected a lot of money into that campus and their programs, so some state-of-the-art equipment there as well. But it was a great learning experience, and Gary, having a great pride in Hot Springs, was more than anxious to show us what he was accomplishing there. Proud to tell you that we, along with a group of Hot Springs National Park Rotarians, that we taught 8th graders at both Lake Hamilton Junior High, and the city manager, Bill Burrow, joined us and taught at Cutter Morning Star Junior High for career preparedness for those folks. something I hadn't done in my third year in the job and felt the need to. Tourism is such a big component of our economy, as you all know, in Hot Springs. So I attended my first governor's conference on tourism in Fort Smith earlier in March, along with Steve Harrison, Eric Jackson, Laura Miller, Diane LaFollette, and Jim Schamberger. That was a good learning experience, trying to fill the gap there on the last component of our economic development puzzle. Was proud to serve with Deputy City Manager Lance Spicer and County Judge Mahoney for a program that Harmony Morrissey, our City Clerk, coordinated for Hot Springs National Park Rotary on the census. We've all seen the numbers. We're right at 50% on folks that have registered for the census and need to continue to beat that home. I don't know if the mayor or Bill mentioned it at a prior board meeting, but I know one of them said it. We met collectively, those two gentlemen, as well as Judge Mahoney, Steve Harrison, Chief Ed Davis, Fire Chief Davis, myself, with 32 restaurant owners, as the coronavirus was on the verge of doing what it's done. That was the early onset on March the 17th. Cole, who I brought with me tonight, as you all know, McCaskill, he's been on the radio on KZNG with Neil Gladner. I want to thank Neil. He's given us a forum to try to address this head on and kind of try to alleviate the fear of some of our business owners here in town by educating them. We've put everything that we possibly could find on our website and tried to be a clearinghouse for information. Skipping around just a point, I'm sure most of you are aware, but we have a great relationship, the community as well as the partnership with Hot Springs Village. Yesterday was truly their 50th anniversary, and sadly they weren't able to celebrate it in the fashion we know they would have liked, but we wish Leslie Nally and her team well on that. Segueing over into the coronavirus, we at the Chamber and Partnership, we've been presenting webinars. We had our second of 3 in a row today by a gentleman on how to deal with the crisis. And from that end, we have just been trying to promote, as you probably know, all small businesses, in particular our restaurants. Some havoc that the coronavirus has played with our schedule is our Academic Excellence Banquet, which I'm not supposed to have a favorite, but it's probably one of my favorite things we do all year. That has been morphed into a nice event over at the Convention Center, into a drive-by experience at Weyerhaeuser with the students and their parents and the superintendents. And that'll be coming up on May the 5th. And our partnership annual banquet had to be moved from April 2nd, and tentatively now is on June the 4th. And Bruce Orr, the superintendent at Lakeside, was supposed to join us for a tour of Pea Ridge High and Springdale Tyson, which was going to be the last of our tour of high schools to learn more about workforce and education in that aspect. That concludes my report. I'll have my monthly I submit to Bill. I'll get that to him next week, kind of a recap of the last 2 months, kind of the finer points. But I asked Cole to join me tonight. We've been in it seems like we've been in a react mode with the coronavirus, and no one likes to do that. We all like to be proactive. And I was just so proud of Cole and Mara Kuhn on our staff. Found a website in Manhattan, Kansas, and Cole can give you the background, but they've worked to develop it in partnership with the Hot Springs Area Community Foundation and CCMC. And if you'll please let me, I will segue over to Cole now and let him explain to you about supportspacity.com.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Hi, directors. So it's Support Spa City is the program Gary is referring to. It is what we're calling a community relief program, and it's a buy one, give one program. And so we've set up the website, supportspacity.com, and anyone can purchase gift cards to local small businesses on that website. And for every $1 spent on gift cards to local businesses, the Community Foundation has pledged to donate $1 in grocery relief to local employees who have lost their employment or are experiencing a reduced employment that's directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. So when we were first talking about this thing, we brought in the Community Foundation as a partner because I thought, well, building the website's easy and getting the businesses to sell gift cards is easy, but coming up with a big pool of money to give away is the hard part. And so I called Joyce Whitfield at the Community Foundation, and she said, oh, yeah, I could raise $25,000 for my donors, probably pretty easy. And it turns out she raised it in 6 days. And so I said, well, man, let's do this thing. And so we brought on CCMC because of the work that they do to administer the grocery assistance part of the program. And so everything happens on the website, supportspacity.com. You can go on there and shop at your favorite businesses, purchase a gift card to use now if the business is open, or later if the business is not open. I think there are a lot of people who are sitting at home wanting to support the community, wanting to support small businesses, and this just gives them an extra incentive to do so, knowing that they can get something, they can get some of that money to a local small business that's desperately needing it, knowing that the rest of that money will go to a good cause as well. And so how is it going? We just surpassed our initial $25,000 goal of gift card sales yesterday. And so the Community Foundation will pledge that money in grocery assistance. The Community Foundation is continuing to raise money, and their pot is currently up to $39,000 and growing. So we're going to keep this thing going. And we have had over about 300 applications for grocery assistance from local employees who have lost their jobs temporarily due to the crisis. So that's all I have.
Very nice. Any questions of Cole or Gary? Any questions from those remote?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Director Garcia.
Thank you. I wanted to thank them for the support Spa City. And as Gary mentioned, the information on their website and the information they put in the paper of how to access these different funds and grants. I heard from some small businesses in my district last week and yesterday that had started receiving these funds. And with the passage today for additional funds, as you know, they ran out of money last week for the paycheck protection funds. That is to have some more funding, and we have a number of local banks working with that. So some I heard from didn't get their application in before their application wasn't reviewed before the money ran out. So they have another opportunity now, and having that information available to them helped those get it in and start receiving funds. So that was very much appreciated by these businesses that I've heard from. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Garcia. Any other questions or comments from those remote? Any questions or comments from those? Director Clark.
Oh, I just want to tell Cole and everyone that I did the Support Spa City, and it's quick and easy and very satisfying. The hard part's just picking which place to support. It's lots of good options.
You could spend a little bit with everybody.
I can. Some can.
Thank you very much.
That's great. It's a great program.
Oh, Gary wanted me to mention we have 98 businesses participating right now. We launched with 14, and it quickly doubled in just a few hours, and then grew to almost 100 very quickly. But businesses can still log on and register to participate. SupportSpaCity.com.
Very good. Well, thank you very much, Gary and Cole, for your great report. Appreciate you. Next time you come, well, I guess we'll be hopefully on the backside of all this, and most of it will be in our rearview mirror, COVID-19. All right, we have a proclamation that I've been asked to read regarding National Arbor Day, April 24th, and the gentleman that I would have presented this to is Mr. Alan Bates of our urban forestry director, but given our social distancing, I'll just read it. Whereas National Arbor Day is observed throughout the nation and the world on the birthday of J. Sterling Morton, who proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture in 1872 that a special day be set aside for planting of trees. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in all areas increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, beautify our community, and are a source of joy and spiritual renewal to many. And whereas recognizing the importance of the vital role trees play in our ecosystem, Hot Springs, Arkansas continues the observance of National Arbor Day on the fourth Friday in April of each year. Now, therefore, I, Pat McKay, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, on behalf of the Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim April 24th, 2020 as National Arbor Day in Hot Springs, Arkansas. A witness whereof I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the city to be affixed on this 21st day in April in the year of our Lord 2020. So, April 24th. That's Thursday.
Yes.
Need to be socially distanced, but get a tree and plant it.
Or take one to Nebraska, apparently.
Or get one from Nebraska.
Okay, well,
So
we need
we'll-
some.
All right. I'll find somebody that will dig a hole for me.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Now we're on to the city manager's report.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mayor.
Burrow.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. I do have quite a bit to talk about tonight. A lot of it is going to center around the COVID-19. I've had several, I've had some comments come through this week regarding why our numbers are a little higher in Garland County. As you know, we don't track things on a city level. It's all on a county level. So, some of that was answered yesterday when we had our virtual meeting of the Hot Spring Garland County COVID-19 Task Force. Dr. Shelby, who's our Garland County Health Officer, shared more information about Garland County as leading the way in regards to testing capacity. I think that's very important to note when you look at the number of positive cases or the number of negative cases that we've had. Garland County has the 8th largest countywide population in Arkansas, but is only second in the total number of tests to Pulaski County. As of April 19th, Garland County had completed a total of 1,517 tests, with the number of total tested per 10,000 population at 15.4. Pulaski County had done 2,192, and their total tested per 10,000 was 5.6. The county with the second highest test ratio per 10,000 residents was Faulkner County at 7.8. So we've doubled that in Garland County, and I want to just thank specifically CHI, National Park, and Dr. Hell's Health Star clinics. They have really helped with that testing by spinning up 5 drive-through what we were initially going to have as screening tents, but they became testing tents. And so that's really helped the number of tests we were able to perform in Garland County. The highest positivity rate in the county so far has been 9.3%, with it now being around 7%, and hopefully we'll see that continue on a downward trend. For us to continue a downward trend with fewer cases, we continue to strongly encourage everyone to continue to follow the recommendations of the CDC and the Arkansas Department of Health. Stay at home if you can. Social distance when you can't. Wear a mask. Avoid gathering of 10 or more, and wash your hands frequently. Those things are still in play, and as we start moving through a downward trend, we really need to keep those things in mind, or we could see our trend not continue in a downward motion. Also, if you have any symptoms consistent with COVID-19, call the Hot Springs Garland County Call Center at 501-760-4307, 501-760-4307. It's 8 to 5, 7 days a week. However, I will say that the activity did decrease some over this past weekend. We only received 5 calls at the call center. So we may look at at some of that staff not being there on the weekend and possibly trying to do that through some other means of communication. We have the 5 COVID-19 drive-through evaluation sites in Garland County. We now have locations listed on cityhs.net/COVID-19. But if you go to cityhs.net, you can get to that link. The staff at the call center can direct you to a location that's nearest you if you need to call. Prior to this week, we had not advertised the location of the evaluation sites, as the call center was the first line in that triage. But the Arkansas Department of Health has expanded the testing criteria to allow anyone test that may be symptomatic or may have been exposed to the virus. So with that, we want to make sure that we get those addresses out, and please go to our site to get those. For those who have other medical issues, please do not hesitate to seek care at your physician's office or the local emergency departments. Our hospitals, unlike those we've seen in the nation's hotspots, they've cared for very few COVID-19 patients, and it's important to get that word out there that our hospitals are safe. We're seeing a very large decline in emergency room visits, and we want to make sure that that our residents know that should they have some type of issue, that it's still safe to go to your primary care physician and your hospitals. There continues to be some domestic violence and mental health issues, which unfortunately is a challenge being faced by public safety authorities all across the United States. And I think that may come from this close stay-at-home policies that we have. But please, if you get into a situation like that, take time to walk outside, clear the air. It's important that we take that amount of time and realize that we're all trying to get through this together. It's also Childhood Abuse Awareness Month, which was shared by our Arkansas First Lady Susan Hutchinson at the governor's COVID-19 press conference on Monday. The pandemic has only exacerbated the issue of child abuse. As such, individuals are encouraged to call the Child Abuse Hotline at 1-844-SAVE-A-CHILD. With help of our Planning and Development Department and our CDBG grant funds, at the last meeting, the board approved almost $15,000 to be moved over of prior year funds to be moved over to COVID-related response. We've learned this week that we also received $254,000 of additional CDBG funds that can be allocated to COVID-19 response, whether it be for testing supplies or reagents, personal protective equipment, homeless outreach, and other pandemic-related needs. The application process will begin soon for these funds and may be used for past expenses to maybe help the call centers or our drive-through clinics. Important to note, the United Way of the Washtas is continuing to update the online resource guide at www.hsresourceguide.org. There is a plethora of resources in our community, and they're kind of all being funneled into that United Way of the Washtas in that resource guide website. If you don't know that website or if you didn't get it, please call the United Way of the Washtas. In such a healthcare and economic crisis, community awareness is utmost important. I've received a lot of calls as well that they're not hearing us get the word out on what's happening with COVID-19 in our community. We do have a website that we devoted to COVID-19. I mentioned it a minute ago, cityhs.net/COVID-19. But if you go to the CityHS website, you'll be able to get there. It pops up on the front page. It's also on our city's Facebook page. But there's a lot of people that don't have in our community that may not be computer savvy, may not have a lot of technical experience, but they still read the newspaper. So I'm very pleased that we were able to meet with one of the reporters from the Sentinel Record, and they're going to start printing our information as well as that's coming out of the governor's daily briefs on page 2. So a lot of our residents that may live in an assisted living or another congregate facility, or just in our normal population, that still take the paper, read the paper. We're going to have information on page 2. They're going to try to keep it there in a in a certain area of the newspaper, so each day you know where to look for that information. We're going to try to update that daily as we do our website. Now, a few other topics. Cornerstone Tank, we still have a lot of projects that are happening in the city. It's been kind of difficult to make sure all of those are still moving forward when we're fighting the things that we're fighting right now in our community. But the Cornerstone Tank painting of the mural has officially started by the tank contractor, CB&I. If we can catch a break in between rains, you'll start seeing that mural come up.
Saw somebody hanging off of it yesterday.
Yes, they are. They're actually hanging off the side of it. The internals of the tank are all installed. The interior of the tank is now being sandblasted, getting ready for the interior painting, and then we'll start filling and testing that particular tank. The switchgear project, about a $5 million project, $4.5 million. This new switchgear for the Ouachita Water Treatment Plant is being started up this week by Kohler. The new VFDs and motors will be online next week, and this should bring that project to completion. And again, that is all of our high service pumps that pump the water from our water treatment plant from the Ouachita plant to the city. And as you know, that plant's 50 years old, so we're very pleased to get that switchgear project complete. All 4 dams at the Bethel, Dillon, Ricks, and Sanderson have been brought up to the Arkansas National Resource Commission standards. The last contract, Lake Bethel Bridge, is almost complete with the concrete deck being installed sometime in the next couple of weeks, weather permitting, and we'll be able to move away and accomplish that goal as well on all of our dams in the North Woods, as well as Lake Ricks will be complete. The water supply project, we're still working on that. The geotechnical intake drilling is complete, and we're waiting for that geotechnical report now and what their recommendations are. Water transmission lines, we continue to for both the raw and the finished water. We're in the process of acquiring those easements, getting permits, approvals, and other regulatory agencies such as Entergy, Arkansas Department of Transportation, Arkansas Department of Health, Corps of Engineers. There's several people or several agencies that are involved in that. But the new 15 million gallon a day water treatment plant site, it's been surveyed. Grading plan has been completed, and process equipment has been designed. So we've got everything kind of sitting there about ready to be able to come back at some point for the bond to be able to build these structures when we see some normalcy in our markets. Want to applaud the street division for stormwater debris removal. Last Easter Sunday, we had a significant storm come through both the city and the county. I would say we haven't seen destruction from a natural resource standpoint like this since we had the 2000 ice storm. We had 18 streets that were blocked throughout just the city, and we're talking very large trees. Some of these were, 80, 100-year-old trees. Crews came in Sunday night, started working on those. I think we had 11 that we were able to get that night, moving into a Monday, and then the others had some type of energy line or some type of a power line in those, and we had to work with Energy and make sure that those power lines were removed, and then we came back in and got the rest of the trees. Danny Carter became the city's 3rd employee to earn a floodplain certification. Danny, our stormwater manager for the city of Hot Springs, was issued his certified floodplain manager credentials on April 13th this year after meeting the requirements set forth by the Arkansas Floodplain Management Association. Danny Carter is now among only just over 100 CFMs in the state and is the 3rd city employee, as I've mentioned, to attain that credential. He joins Public Works Director Danny McFate and our engineering senior project inspector, Pat Watson. And finally, Mayor, as most have seen this week, Chief Jason Stacey and Assistant Chief Walt Everton has announced their retirements. Both of these gentlemen are going to continue to serve our city through May 29th of this year. Chief Stacey served as chief since May 28th of 2016. He'll have 4 years in that role upon his departure. He served as the interim chief since December 1st, 2015. Assistant Chief Everton was promoted to his position on September 7, 2016. You know, I appreciate the service and leadership both Chief Stacey and Assistant Chief Everton have provided the city, and wish them well in their future endeavors and a well-deserved retirement. These gentlemen have spent pretty much their entire adult life working at the Hot Springs Police Department. Walt had 28 years in, and I think Jason had somewhere around 24. So that's a lot of service to the residents and to our city, and just really appreciate what they've done. I've enjoyed working with both of them, and we're going to miss them. We've got that process started. We've got the position posted. We're not doing I won't say we're not doing a nationwide search. We're just doing it in a different way. Position closes in a couple of weeks. However, we have a caveat that it could be extended at the discretion of the city manager. You know, as we started looking at the print publications and some of the associations, we were 60 days out to be able to get that information in there. This isn't a position where we can wait 60 days to hire. But with technology today, things like Indeed, some of those other job search programs, we posted this position Thursday mid-morning, and by Friday I had 6 resumes sent in from all across the United States. So the job market is out there, the job postings out there across the U.S. So we're going to wait till it closes and get a look at those, and I'll seek some advice, and most likely we'll have a selection committee to work on some of the interviews at that time. But we are moving forward with that. We're not going to waste any time. Hopefully we'll get a selection through this first process. If we get those closed in a couple of weeks and we don't, we'll go back out. We're not going to settle. Our community deserves the very best, and that's what we're going to have. So, Mayor, that completes my report.
Very good. Thank you. Very thorough report. This time we'll address any announcements of upcoming events that members of the board would like to make the public aware of. Should I call on Director Garcia? Do you have an upcoming event?
I'm sorry, I had to unmute. I would just remind the public to please fill out your census forms. The end of April's next month, and we are behind in where we should be on those responses. And as I understand it, because of COVID-19, currently those workers that were going to go out and start knocking on doors mid-May will start calling people to follow up on responses not received. So if everyone that has not responded would respond, then by the end of next week, they could avoid those calls from the outside. So it's very important for our turnback funds and our streets and public safety that we get an accurate count. So please respond.
Very good. Thank you. Any other announcements from those who are remote? Director Foley, Director Holliday,
I have
Director
none.
Jones. All right. Any comments of upcoming events from directors in chambers? Nope. Okay, we'll move on. At this time, we'll consider items on the consent agenda. And we really only have one item on the consent agenda, and these generally have a routine nature and do not merit discussion. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So move.
Director Jones, seconded by?
Second.
By Director Holliday. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Consent agenda is approved. For those of you who are at home, and including those remote, this is all the action items today are going to be addressed by our Kathy Salmon, Director of Planning and Development. We have, I don't know, somewhere like 15 of these or so. And So at this time, we'll begin consideration. They're generally all condemnations until we get to the very last item, which is ordinance. So consider resolution R2046 and ask city attorney to read by title.
Resolution number R2046, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 213 Meadow. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So move.
Director Weatherford, seconded by Director Clark. And as I indicated, Kathy Selman, Director of Planning and Development, will provide this and many more reports.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. The format for these is pretty much going to be repetitive, but for the record, we will be going through the requirements for a condemnation, as well as some of the specifics of each of these properties. So the first one, the City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single-family structure at 213 Meadow Street. The structure is blighting the neighborhood and poses public health and safety risks. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be razed and removed. Federal Community Development Block Grant funds will cover expenses, and notice has been provided as required by law. There has been a file open on this property since 2019. The owner received several notices and citations to repair the roof and foundation, but failed to comply. The roof has leaked for so long it has caused major damage now to the foundation, and all the subfloors rotten and collapsed. Taxes are current and there are no liens on the property.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions of Director Selman? And do we have anybody in the foyer?
Mayor, I have retrieved the sign-up sheets for the agenda items tonight. No one signed up for any of the items. However, pursuant to the city's policy, Ms. Harmony Morrissey and I both received contact from a couple of people last week concerning this property, the first of which is Attorney Samuel High. He represents PennyMac Loan Services. They're the servicer on the mortgage for this property at 213 Meadow. And they've been in touch with the property owner and would like to respectfully request that the city consider continuing or delaying this action on the property and allowing the potential for remediation of any and all issues. The property owner has now filed an insurance claim and is working with the adjuster. He's been advised by the insurance company that he should receive a report within a week or so. The intent at this time, if possible, is to remediate any issues with regard to the property. At the same time, his client, being PennyMac Loan Services, has been obtaining bids if it is necessary for them to take any action with regard to the property. And all that being said, he just asked that it be continued. In my conversations with him about this request, I advised him that the board's typical stance on issues like this is to go ahead and consider the adoption of the resolution to condemn, knowing that it takes 30 days before any bids would be solicited, and so they would be afforded that opportunity during that 30 days to seek permits, whether it's for demo or rehabilitation or whatever the case may be. And he seemed to understand that, but wanted to submit his position statement for the board, and I'll make sure that Kathy and the planning department has a copy of this for their file.
If we did approve this resolution tonight, does that disadvantage the gentleman in dealing with his insurance company?
No, I don't believe so. I think that this damage to this property occurred almost a year ago. So I think that it's been the impetus of PennyMac being involved at this point that's gotten the property owner somewhat eager to move forward with doing something because there is a lien on the property.
You described it accurately. We always have, we generally have approved the resolution knowing they had 30 days to show evidence, and then we can use the discretion of Kathy or Mike Scott to kind of monitor it post 30 days.
And I'd be happy to take any questions or hear any comments on this particular statement that we received on behalf of the attorney. I know that Ms. Morrissey has another email that she received from a neighboring property owner.
Yes, I received the following email from Mrs. Barbara Stallion, who lives at 215 Meadow Street, which is next door to the subject property in District 3. She states in her email, "This is to request that you condemn the property next door to my house. The property is located at 213 Meadow and has been vacant for about 3+ years. It is in very bad disrepair. It has caused my neighbors and me much concern. There are environmental issues such as rats and snakes. In the summer, I've had to mow this yard many times, and I've even paid a worker $200 to take accumulated trash and broken glass away. The inside has fallen through into the cellar, and bricks have fallen from the walls. The roof is unstable for anyone to walk on. On several occasions, I've had to pick up blown-off sections of the roof, which is made of styrofoam covered with aluminum foil. Mold is a problem also. Also, during the last winter, homeless people broke in and stayed in the house during the cold weather. I'm 75 years old, and I can hear them drinking and playing battery-operated radios. I believe they could be dangerous when drinking, and I'm afraid of them. The owner, Mr. Woods, is aware of these issues. I believe the house is not salvageable. I do have a broker's license from North Carolina, but no longer practice. The majority of our residents are older citizens who value our property and this neighborhood. If you've ever read the book Broken Windows, you know that crime always follows property that is not cared for. Speaking on behalf of our community, I respectfully ask for your help tonight." Signed, Mrs. Barbara Stallion.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions or comments from those who are remote?
Mr. Mayor, this is Randy Foley.
Go ahead, Director Foley.
I would just like to commend Council for their approach with the people representing this piece of property. I have driven every one of these properties. I didn't go inside, but I didn't have to see what it does to the rest of the community who live right nearby. I mean, it just destroys the whole neighborhood in terms of its value, its looks, and as the lady said, I mean, this is a perfect place to harbor people who you don't really want messing around in your neighborhood. So I support the approach of carrying through with the condemnation. And I mean, our planning department has demonstrated many times that people who are sincere about bringing their property up to date, they have been willing to work with them over and over. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
This is in my district, and I know the area well. And as the lady who wrote in, it's a very nice neighborhood of people who take good care of their yards and their homes. This is really an aberration, and I agree we need to put the pressure on.
Very good. Thank you. If there's no further questions, please call the roll.
Director Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. This time we'll consider Resolution R2047 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R2047, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 130 Gibson. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Weatherford, seconded by Director Jones. And Director Salmon will provide the overview.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single-family structure at 130 Gibson Street. The structure is blighting the neighborhood and poses public health and safety risks. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be razed and removed. Community development block grants will cover expenses. Notice was published as required by law, and the brief history on this. We started a file on this property following complaint after several reports of vagrants living in the structure. Several notices were sent to the owner to secure the structure and to make necessary repairs. However, the structure remains wide open and constitutes a nuisance in its current condition. The roof is sagging, and the deteriorated foundation is causing the walls to buckle outward. Taxes are current, and there are no outstanding liens on the property.
Thank you. Any questions of, well, we don't have anybody in the audience. Again, any questions of Director Selman regarding this piece of property?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask Ms. Selman, how long have you been working on this property, Kathy?
We've been working since January 2019.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Those remotely?
Okay.
Anybody in chambers? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mayor, if I could, the remote nature of this threw me off of my process on the last one. So if I could, even though no one signed up on the list, I'd like to call for anyone here in opposition of a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 130 Gibson. 130 Gibson. Hearing none, Mayor.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Holiday.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution's adopted. Consider Resolution R 2048 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R2048, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 621 Crescent Street. That concludes your reading. Mayor, if you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Got Director Garcia, seconded by Director Clark. And Director Salmon will provide the overview.
Thank you, Mayor. City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single-family residential structure at 621 Crescent Street. The structure is blighting the neighborhood and poses public health and safety risks. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be razed and removed. Community Development Block Grant funds will cover the expenses. Notice has been provided as required by law, and I neglected to mention, but this is true of all of these. The owner will have 30 days from the date of condemnation to either repair the structure or have it raised and removed. And should the city be forced to do the work, then that cost will be as a lien against the property.
Very good. There's no citizen in the audience to speak to this issue. Any comments or questions from those who are remote? Any comment or question from those in chamber?
No.
Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mayor, if I could,
I'm
anyone here to speak against a resolution condemning certain real property located at 621 Crescent? 621 Crescent. There are none, Mayor.
Very good. Please call the roll.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Holiday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. We'll consider Resolution R 2049. Ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R2049, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 1015 Airport Road. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Foley, seconded by
Second.
Director Clark. And Kathy Selman will provide a staff overview.
Thank you, Mayor. City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant commercial structure at 1015 Airport Road. The structure is blighting the area and proposes public health and safety risks. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe because of excessive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be raised and removed. This would also be eligible for Community Development Block Grant funds to cover the expenses. Notice was provided as required by law. And the specifics of this address, the first notice was sent in 2018 to secure the building and repair the roof. The owner received a citation that resulted in fines around $1,200. This year there was a small fire in the building, apparently set by vagrants. The taxes are current. There are no outstanding liens on the property. And one comment is that the roof of the structure is badly deteriorated and presents a hazard.
Thank you. City Attorney, you want to read your statement, please?
Yes, Mayor. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of a resolution condemning certain real property located at 1015 Airport Road? 1015 Airport Road. There's none, Mayor.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Director Weatherford.
Any comments from directors? I'm sorry. Director Garcia, did you have a comment?
No, sir.
Okay. Any comments from those in chamber? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. We'll consider Resolution R 2050 and ask the City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R 2050, resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 512 Crescent Street. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Jones, seconded by
Second.
Director Weatherford. And staff report from Director of Planning and Development, Kathy Solomon.
Thank you, Mayor. City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single-family structure at 512 Crescent Street. The structure is blighting the neighborhood and poses public health and safety risks. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of the deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be raised and removed. Federal Community Development Block Grant funds will cover expenses, and notice was provided as required by law. On the specifics on 512 Crescent, the first vacant structure notice was issued in 2019. Several notices were issued to the owner to repair and secure the structure with no compliance. The taxes are current. There are liens on the property for cutting the grass by the city. The foundation is deteriorated. The back walls of the structure have fallen in. The roof is leaking in some areas. The situation is providing a structure to the neighborhood, and we would like to see the structure condemned. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney.
Anyone here to speak against the resolution condemning certain real property located at 512 Crescent Street? 512 Crescent Street. There is none, Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from those remote? Any comment or question from those in chamber? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Now we'll consider Resolution R 2051 and ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R 2051, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 207 Ostego Street. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion and second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
We got Director Clark as the motion and Director Foley as the second. Planning Director Kathy Selman will provide the staff overview.
Thank you, Mayor. City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purposes of demolishing and clearing a vacant single-family residential structure at 207 Ostego Street. The structure is blighting the neighborhood and poses public health and safety risks. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be raised and removed. This removal would be eligible for community development block grants to cover expenses. Notice has been provided as required by law. And the details on this, there's been a vacant structure notice on this property since 2019. Several notices were sent to the owner with no compliance. The structure at this time is wide open. The roof is leaking. The ceiling has collapsed in places. The floor is rotten in areas, and there is structural damage throughout the house. Taxes are delinquent, and the property has been state certified, and there are no active liens on the property at this time.
Thank you. City Attorney.
Anyone here to speak in opposition of a resolution condemning certain real property located at 207 Ostego Street? 207 Ostego Street. There is none, Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from those remote? Any comments or questions from those in chamber? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Foley.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution's adopted. We'll consider Resolution R 2052 and ask the City Attorney to read by title.
I think I jumped ahead of you, Mayor. Hold on a second. My screen's down, so.
Director Weatherford will whistle a song.
Resolution R 2052, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069, located at 114 Francis Street. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So move.
Director Weatherford, seconded by
Foley.
Director Garcia. And Director Selman will provide the staff overview.
Thank you. The City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing one of two vacant single-family residential structures at 114 Francis Street. There are two structures on the property. This is the little one in the back. The structure is blighting the neighborhood and poses public health and safety risks. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of the deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be raised and removed. This work would be eligible for the Community Development Block Grant to cover expenses, and notice was provided as required by law. The first vacant structure notice on this was sent in 2019. The owner did secure the structure, but never made any repairs, nor was there any contact with the Planning and Development Department. The owner lives out of state. We've been unable to contact the owner. Taxes are current, and there are no current liens. The roof leaks, and that has caused a significant amount of damage to the interior and to the foundation.
Very good. Thank you. City Attorney.
Anyone here to speak in opposition of a resolution condemning certain real property located at 114 Francis Street? 114 Francis Street. There is none, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions of Director Selman from those who are remote? Any questions from those in chamber? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Holliday.
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Weatherford,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Foley,
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. At this time, we'll consider Resolution R 2053 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R 2053, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069, located at 409 Apex Street. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
So
I got Director Weatherford, I think Director Garcia made the second, and Kathy Selman will provide the staff overview.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single-family residential structure at 409 Apex Street. The structure is blighting the neighborhood and poses public health and safety risks. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be raised and removed. This would be eligible for community development block grants to cover the cost of removal. Notice was provided as required by law. The first vacant structure notice was issued in 2019. The owner is deceased. There are no city liens on the property. The taxes are delinquent for 1 year. There is a federal tax lien in excess of $11,000. And the foundation is notably deteriorated and the roof is leaking. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. City Attorney.
Anyone here to speak in opposition of resolution condemning certain real property located at 409 Apex Street? 409 Apex Street. There is none, Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from those remote?
no, sir.
Any comments or questions from those in chamber? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Weatherford,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Foley,
Aye.
Holiday,
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Now we'll consider Resolution R 2054 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R 2054, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069, located at 110 Liberty Street. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
So moved.
We got Director Clark, seconded by Director Jones, and Director of Planning and Development, Kathy Selman, will provide the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single-family residential structure at 110 Liberty Street. The structure is blighting the neighborhood and poses public health and safety risks. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be raised and removed. The Community Development Block Grant will cover expenses. Notice was provided as required by law. A vacant structure notice was sent in 2017. Several citations were issued to the owner, and the owner was found guilty with fines still being owned. The owner did secure the property, but vagrants keep breaking into it and trying to occupy it. The last inspection, several doors were open and someone was living in it. Taxes are delinquent, and this was state certified to be sold on a tax sale in March. We have not received any notice that the sale occurred. There are no liens from the city on the property. The roof is deteriorated and the foundation has cracks, which have caused some of the exterior walls of the structure to buckle outwards, creating a safety hazard. Thank you.
Very good. City Attorney.
Anyone here to speak in opposition of a resolution condemning certain real property at 110 Liberty Street? 110 Liberty Street. There's none, Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments from those remote? Comments or questions from those remote?
No, sir.
Any comments or questions from those in chambers?
Mayor, I would just comment that in the event that this did proceed to a tax sale prior to the time that we're able to serve the actual resolution of condemnation on the property owner, then our interest in that would be subservient to the tax sale.
Very good. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution's adopted. This time we'll consider ordinance R2055.
Resolution R2055, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069, located at 207 Texas Street. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Weatherford, seconded by
Second.
Director Clark. And Director Selman provide the overview.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single-family residential structure at 207 Texas Street. The structure is blighting the neighborhood and poses public health and safety risks. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of the deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be raised and removed. This removal would qualify for community development block grants to cover the expenses. Notice was provided as required by law. There have been notices issued under the vacant structure ordinance since 2018. The structure was wide open. The city has had to secure the property. The owner has never responded to any of the notices or attempts to contact an owner or someone with interest. The two of the owners are deceased and the other two cannot be located. The foundation and roof on this structure are deteriorated. The roof leaks in several places. The taxes are current because of a homestead credit that has been applied for several years. The city has liens against the property for securing the structure and for cutting the grass. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney.
Anyone here to speak in opposition of a resolution condemning certain real property located at 207 Texas Street? 207 Texas Street. There's none, Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from those who are remote? Any comments or questions from those in chamber?
Mayor, if nothing else, just to break the monotony, I wanted to remind the board, Ms. Selman indicated that there were a couple of owners that could not be located. I wanted to remind the board that when that's the case, an attorney at litem is retained and a warning order is issued and published in the newspaper for constructive notice.
Very good. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Director Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution's adopted. To break the monotony, Director Selman, you need a drink of water or anything? You've been doing all the talking. I don't know how you get it in there, but
Good.
you're all good?
Let's go for it.
Okay, we're rolling.
Yeah.
We got 5 more action items, 4 that are resolutions and 1's an ordinance. So we'll get on with it. Consider Resolution R2056 and ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R2056, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 324 Ozark Street. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
So moved.
Director Weatherford, made the motion, Director Foley made the second, and Director Selman will provide the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single-family residential structure at 324 Ozark Street. The structure is blighting the neighborhood and poses public health and safety risks. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be raised and removed. Expenses of removal will be eligible for funding by the Community Development Block Grant Funds. Notice was provided as required by law. First vacant structure notice was issued in 2018. The owner received several citations on this property that resulted in $400 in fines. The property is wide open, and the owner has not made repairs to bring the structure into compliance. Taxes are delinquent for the past 3 years. The property will be state certified for auction in 2021. There are no liens on this property from the city. Some work was done at this property without permits, and triple charge on permits has never been paid, although the owner is well aware of this. The roof on the structure was replaced without permits and is already leaking. What work was done on the house does not meet code. The structure was condemned in 2019, but due to legal issues, the city did not remove the structure. The owner had several letters sent to him and hasn't responded to any of the letters to secure the structure or to clean up the property. Neighbors report vagrants staying in the structure off and on, with it being wide open. We did have an email from the owner, I believe yesterday, saying he's on it. So we would recommend that we proceed with condemnation, knowing that there will be a minimum of 30 days following your action in which the owner can make corrections. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney.
Anyone here to speak in opposition of resolution condemning certain real property located at 324 Ozark Street? 324 Ozark Street. There is none, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone remote have a question or comment?
I do, Mr. Mayor. This is Erin Holiday. I just want to mention this is a house that's almost exactly across the street from me. And the idea of the owner being on it, unfortunately, does not hold true based on the lack of activity for several months by workers. It was nice to see the new roof go on after the last condemnation, but since then, nobody has done any work. So unfortunately, his idea of being on it is not maybe the same as the rest of ours. So just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Any other comments remotely? Any comments from those in chamber? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Holiday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. The resolution is adopted. This time we'll consider Resolution R 2057 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R 2057, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 213 Magnolia Street. That concludes your reading, Mayor.
Very good.
If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
I'll do that. Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Clark. Director Jones, are you smiling? Are you making a motion second?
Look,
Thank you. I thought I heard you. And Director of Planning and Development, we're losing our wheels here.
yes.
Director of Planning and Development, Kathy Selman, will provide the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single-family residential structure at 213 Magnolia Street. The structure is blighting the neighborhood and poses public health and safety risks. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be raised and removed. This property would be eligible for use of community development block grant funds to cover expenses of removal. Notice has been provided as required by law. There's been a vacant structure notice at this address since 2017. There are no taxes owed on this property because of the homestead credit that was applied until this year. There are liens in the amount of $386 from the city for cutting and securing the property. The roof on the structure is leaking and has caused damage in several rooms. 2 of the owners on this property are deceased. The third one cannot be located. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney?
Is there anyone at all here present to speak against the resolution condemning certain real property located at 213 Magnolia Street? 213 Magnolia Street. There appears to be none, Mayor.
Then we'll proceed. Any questions or comments from those who are remote? Any questions or comments from those in chambers? City Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Foley.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. The resolution is adopted. For those in the viewing audience, this is our first full board meeting without an audience. I mean, we did a telephone conference 2 weeks ago, and we didn't have anybody in here, but it's kind of different having all these agenda items and having the directors on at home on remote, and it gets a little disjointed. You don't get any feedback from the public, so we've gotten into a repetition here, and we're almost there. We just got about 3 more action items. So.
It's almost like those monologues at 10:30 with no audience. It's kind of crazy.
Like your city manager's report.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, well, without any further ado, we had to break it up here the last couple minutes here, so we're good. We got 3 more action items. We're going to consider Resolution R2058 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R2058, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 445 Walnut Street. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Garcia jumped in there, and
Second.
Director Weatherford right behind. So Director Salmon will provide an overview.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an after-the-fact condemnation. The structure was substantially destroyed by fire August 22nd, 2019, and structural debris was on the ground. The structure was unsafe and constituted an immediate nuisance and danger to the neighborhood. Approval of the resolution to condemn will affirm the decision by staff to remove the debris immediately. This has been already paid for by city general funds. Notice was provided as required by law. There's not a whole lot more to say about that one. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. City Attorney?
Anyone here to speak in opposition of a resolution condemning certain real property located at 445 Walnut Street? 445 Walnut Street. There appears to be none, Mayor.
Very good. If somebody called out, I think we'd be shocked.
Yeah. I'm waiting, though. I'm ready.
All right. So now that we did that,
Any discussion?
any discussion? Thank you. I'm right with you. Any discussion amongst those who are remote?
Just a quick question. Since that was paid with general funds, is it available to be reimbursed by CDBG? Does it qualify?
It does not, because CDBG funds cannot be used for reimbursement under usual circumstances.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thank you for the question. Any question or comment from those who are in chambers? Hearing none, we'll call the roll, please.
Director Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly,
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Now we'll consider Resolution R 2059 and ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution Resolution R 2059, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 333 Ridgeway Street. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt. Is that Director
So
Foley
moved.
I heard out there? Motion to adopt Carol Weatherford, seconded by
Second.
Director Clark. And staff report will be provided by Ms. Selman.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single-family residential structure heavily damaged by fire at 333 Ridgeway Street. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of the extensive damage caused by the fire. The owner is unable to make repairs to stabilize, and after a vacant structure was sent to him in January of this year, the city made contact with the owner and discussed the owner letting the city tear the house down through the CDBG program known as Spot Blight Nuisance Abatement Forgivable Loan Program. The owner has returned all of the paperwork required for this. There are no outstanding liens on the property, and taxes are current. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone here to speak in opposition of a resolution condemning certain real property located at 333 Ridgeway Street? 333 Ridgeway Street. There's none, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from those who are remote? Any question or comment from those in chamber? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Holiday.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Our final action item of the evening is to consider ordinance O 2025, and I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title.
So moved.
Director Garcia,
Second.
second by Director Clark. We have a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. City Attorney, please read by title.
Ordinance O 2025, an ordinance amending the zoning map to C4 Regional Commercial Open Display District from R4 Residential Medium High District for 11 acres more or less, generally located between the 2100 block of Higdon Ferry and Twin Points Roads, amending the future land use plan map to Business Commercial Center and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Very good. Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Weatherford, seconded by
Second.
Second.
Director Foley. And Director Selman will provide the staff overview.
Thank you. The applicant is Mr. Keith Richardson, representing property owner River Point Development, LLC, requesting to expand existing C4 Regional Commercial Open Display District zoning at 2 locations within the overall property there of approximately 108 acres. He is requesting to change it from R4 medium high density residential. These are in 2 separate tracts, and they are in Board of Directors District Number 5. The applicant's engineering firm, White Daters and Associates, submitted an application narrative which was included in your packet. Parcel A contains 4.4 acres, parcel B 6.6 acres. The application and narrative have successfully demonstrated compatibility with surrounding developments and zoning, and the request responds to significant changes in surrounding physical and economic land uses with the widening of Higdon Ferry Road. Should C4 Regional Commercial Open Display District zoning be expanded at the requested locations, it would allow for a broad range of permitted and conditional uses, as outlined in Hot Springs Code Section 16.2.152 Table of Permitted Uses. Depending on specific future development proposals, Article 2 Site Plan Review application may be required to be reviewed by Planning Commission prior to construction on lots within this development. Richardson Hot Springs rezone application was submitted for review, advertised and scheduled for Planning Commission action on April 9, 2020. Per Hot Springs Ordinance Number 6323, City Manager Bill Burrow approved Resolution 9599, finding that the application demonstrates compatibility with surrounding developments and zoning, and that the request responds to significant change in the surrounding physical and economic uses, specifically related to widening of Higdon Ferry Road as required by Hot Springs Code, Section 16.2.11. And the recommendation is that you approve an ordinance amending the zoning map to show the subject lands, C4, and amending the future land use plan map to show it as business commercial center. Thank you.
Very good. Any questions of Director Salmon? Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. We'll come back to you on that. We have two masked gentlemen that walked into the room shortly a few minutes ago. And do you have anything to report? Would you like to make comment, please? And if so, please come up and state your name and address. And we're going to vote on who has the nicest mask at the end of the night.
I think the client always wins, doesn't he? My name is Brian Dale. I'm with White Daters and Associates. We helped make the application for Mr. Richardson, and we are here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions of the applicant? Any questions remote?
Mr. Mayor, I had a question. I don't know who it should be directed to, but in the map that was shown for the development. First, let me say that in researching, all of the developments of this developer have been very nice. I mean, I think it'll be a great addition for Hot Springs for residential and commercial. But I did have a question regarding the entrances and exits.
Yeah, Director Salmon, you want to address that? But please stay by, sir.
Yes.
On the, there were two exits, I believe, one into Higdon Ferry, and then it would be a new city street that would be coming into Twin Points, and it would be at an intersection for Forest Lakes Boulevard coming into Twin Points. And I could see that being a busy intersection there. And I found out just from this that the city only has 2 traffic lights on city streets because we have so many state highways coming through here that they're all on state highways that the state approves, except for 2 locations that are city streets. But if with that connection to Twin Points from the new street and Forest Lakes, I could see that being a throughway to the commercial area from Forest Lakes Boulevard, as well as currently sometimes it's difficult to turn left. So what is the criteria to have I don't know if it'd be a 4-way stop or just what is the criteria if there is heavy traffic there? Because currently Twin Points is the only outlet from Birchwood Bay or any of the other areas to a traffic light on Higdon Ferry.
That's a great question, Director Garcia. And this request is for zoning.
Right.
Those matters will be covered in the division of the land. There was an approval of a preliminary subdivision plat that shows the site to be drawn as the map that is in your packet. There
Yes.
are 13 or 14, I cannot remember, specific conditions that have to do with that subdivision, including the fact that because of the broad range of uses that are allowable within the C4 zone district, which a significant amount of this land already is C4.
Right.
Individual development of lots within the subdivision may be subject to a traffic study, the results of which would determine improvements that would be the responsibility of the developer to install. And that would include meeting warrants for the installation of traffic signals.
Okay, so that's something the developer's willing to do if warranted.
Yes.
Okay. Well, like I said, I support the development, and I think it'll be a great addition for Hot Springs. And I'm excited that they want to do this development here. So, but the questions I'd received were future traffic issues. And so I appreciate you answering that. Thank you. And I appreciate the developer.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Any further questions from those who are remote? Any questions from those who are in chambers? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley. Director Foley.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Aye.
Oh, thank you. Director Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. And the ordinance is adopted. I'm glad Director Foley came back on because he wouldn't have gotten credit for his continuing ed that he left early.
My wife made me do
Got to
it.
be here at the end.
Got to scan you.
Got to scan your
That's
badge.
not true. That is not true.
No.
All right. Well, that concludes the action items for this evening. We had 17 of them and just a whole array of condemnations and one other item. At this time, we'll entertain Board of Directors items for discussion. We'll start off with Director 1, Director Holliday. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
I do not, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Jones?
I got a lot to say, but I'll wait till the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. And Director Clark?
No, thank you.
And Director Weatherford? Director Garcia?
No, sir. No additional.
Director Foley?
Yes, Mayor. I would like to thank Jeff and Sheila Winter for making this meeting go so smoothly. I know Jeff has been working on this a long time.
Yes, he is.
And I, for one, appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Very good. Well deserved. Thank the Winters for keeping us connected here.
How about Kathy?
My only comment's going to be to ditto what City Manager said. I know Director Foley, as a longtime hospital administrator, he would echo this, that regardless of what's going on with COVID-19, there are a number of individuals across the country that are not seeking care timely. And I don't know if it's a misunderstanding or just the fear of going to a hospital or clinic and perhaps contracting COVID-19. But I read an article the other day that emergency room visits for strokes and cardiac arrests and all kinds of other ailments that really need to be addressed at that time, they're not coming in. And it does not make any sense that these things have just disappeared. They're out there, and there's a major concern that when they do get care, the whole operation, the whole procedure is going to be much more extensive. There'll be a greater risk, and the recovery time, if they have the ability to be recovered, is going to be significantly greater. So please, 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 seek your care. The hospitals have taken extra precautions within their emergency rooms to identify those with COVID-19. In fact, you're really not supposed to go to the hospital. You're supposed to go to these evaluation centers and that.
Yeah.
But they'll direct you if you do show up. And the clinics here in town have done an exceptional job, at least the one that I went to. You stay out in your car, you call the clinic and say you're in the parking lot, and they ask you a few questions. The normal questions about where you've been traveling and who you've been associating with. And when they're ready for you, they'll call you to have you come into the clinic. They'll do a temp check right away and take you directly to your exam room. You do not pass go, do not collect $200. You just go straight to the exam room, and then when you get done, you pretty much go straight back out. So fairly straightforward. So you can do that, about as risk-free as you can possibly get. So they're very sensitive to those precautions. Director Foley, did you have anything you wanted to add on that?
No, I don't. I mean, the healthcare model is going to change significantly after all of this is finished. People are going to be less willing to go seek care, unfortunately. And I think that's going to take a toll on our healthcare system eventually.
Correct. Thank you. All right. If there's no other comments, I guess the last comment is reserved for Director Jones.
Yes, it's my turn, Mayor. Be sure to wash your hands, whatever you do. Wash your hands. I'd like to move that we adjourn for the night from our meeting.
We have a motion by Director Jones to adjourn. We have a second?
Yes.
Okay, we got a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned, and those of you who are remote, have a safe trip to the refrigerator or to the bedroom, and for those of us here, drive safely.
Kathy, great.